The sun rose slowly above the endless green fields of Keshapur, a small village tucked between rivers and dusty roads. Morning light painted the mist in gold, and the sound of roosters echoed from every house. Women swept their courtyards, men tied the oxen for plowing, and children ran barefoot through the wet soil. Among them walked Raghav, a young man of 21, tall, quiet, and humble. His hands were rough from work, his shirt torn at the shoulder, and his eyes deep, carrying dreams too big for his pocket. His father, Shambhu, was a farmer who had spent his life fighting droughts and debts. His mother, Kamla, prayed every morning before the small clay idol in their kitchen, whispering the same words. "Protect my son, Lord. Give him a better life than ours." Raghav never heard those prayers, but he carried their weight in his heart. At the far end of the same village lived Mira, a girl whose laughter could make even the tired trees bloom again. She was 19, dressed in simple cotton clothes, a scarf over her head, and eyes that reflected the colors of the monsoon sky. Her family owned a few hens, 2 goats, and a small hut near the old banyan tree. Her father, Haridas, was once strong but now lay sick most days. Mira would wake up before dawn, feed the chickens, draw water from the well, and then walk to the fields where Raghav worked. Their eyes met every morning, shy, silent, yet full of stories untold. Sometimes Raghav would stop his work, wipe his sweat, and smile faintly. Mira would lower her eyes, pretending to fix her dupatta, but her heart would race. There was something innocent between them, not love yet, but the beginning of it. Sun behind rain cloud the struggle. One afternoon, dark clouds gathered above Keshapur. The air smelled of rain and mud. Farmers ran to cover their grain sacks, and women rushed to bring their clothes from the ropes. Raghav looked at the sky and whispered, "Finally, rain." But when it came, it didn't stop. Days turned into nights of endless thunder. The river overflowed, drowning the lowlands. The fields that once promised gold now smelled of rot. Raghav's home flooded. The cows were taken away by the current. Shambhu fell ill, coughing blood from exhaustion. Kamla cried silently while holding the broken door, praying for help that never came. Mira saw everything from afar. Her father's hut, too, was filled with water. Chickens fluttered helplessly. She ran barefoot through the mud, her clothes soaked, her heart trembling, and reached Raghav's house. "Raghav! Are you all right?" she cried. He looked at her, half-drenched, holding his father's hand. "We'll be fine, Mira. Go back, you'll catch cold." "I won't go," she said stubbornly, tears mixing with rain. "If your home breaks, mine breaks too." That moment, amid thunder and flood, love was born, pure and painful. Broken heart, the fall. The next morning, the rain stopped. But Raghav's father was gone. Shambhu's body lay cold, wrapped in a wet white sheet. Kamla screamed, her voice echoing through the village. Mira stood behind the door, crying silently, hands trembling. After the funeral, Raghav sat under the banyan tree, mud on his face, eyes empty. Mira came and placed her hand on his shoulder. "Your father's prayers won't die with him. You'll rise, Raghav." He looked up. "How?" "The land is gone. The debt is left. I have nothing." "You still have yourself," she said softly. "And the soil that knows your sweat." That night, Raghav decided he would leave the village and go to the city to work. He would earn enough to repay his father's debt and return stronger. Kamla cried when he told her. "The city eats poor boys alive," she said. "But Ma," Raghav replied, "if I stay, I'll die doing nothing." Mira heard the news and hid behind her hut, crying quietly. She wanted to stop him, but she also wanted him to become what his father dreamed of. Before leaving, Raghav went to her. "Mira," he said softly, "I'll come back. Maybe late, but I will. Just keep believing." She nodded, eyes full of tears. "I'll wait. Always." As he walked away on the dusty road, Mira watched him until he disappeared. The sound of his footsteps faded, but the echo stayed in her heart. Cityscape at dusk, the city of shadows. Raghav arrived in the city, a place louder than dreams and colder than stone. He found work at a construction site. The days were long, the nights sleepless. He carried cement sacks, climbed half-built towers, and ate stale bread in dark corners. Sometimes, when he sat under the half-moon sky, he'd close his eyes and remember Mira, her laughter, her voice, her words. The soil knows your sweat. Her memory became his strength. Back in the village, Mira's life grew harder. Her father's illness worsened. She started stitching clothes for others and selling milk from her goat. Every evening she'd sit near the same banyan tree, waiting for a letter. Months passed. Then one day, she received one. From Raghav. I'm fine. The work is hard, but I'm learning. Soon, Mira, I'll send money home. Tell Ma not to cry. She kissed the letter and hid it in her diary. Her heart danced with hope again. But not every letter carried joy. In the city, Raghav met Amaan, a fellow worker, charming but cunning. Amaan introduced him to the darker side of survival, shortcuts, money tricks, and betrayal. Why break your bones for pennies, brother? Amaan laughed. Come with me. There are easier ways. Raghav refused at first, but hunger can silence morals. He joined Amaan in smuggling stolen goods from the site. For weeks, things went smoothly until one night, the police came. Amaan ran. Raghav was caught. He spent 3 months in jail, 3 months that broke his pride and his spirit. When he came out, the world seemed empty. He went back to the same banyan memory, Mira's smile, and cried like a child. He wrote her again, but the letter never reached. Cherry blossomed back in the village. Mira never got his letter. Rumors spread that Raghav had betrayed her, that he'd forgotten the village and found another life. People whispered, she endured. Her father died soon after. Now alone with her mother, she became the pillar of her home. But every night, before sleeping, she whispered, he'll come back. I know he will. Time passed 2 years, then 3. The banyan tree still stood, but Mira's smile faded. Until one evening, a dusty figure walked into the village, carrying a torn bag and tired eyes. Raghav had returned. Evening light spilled like molten gold over Keshapur when Raghav stepped back into the village. 3 years had passed, yet everything smelled the same: damp soil, wood smoke, and the faint scent of jasmine from Mira's courtyard. But inside him, nothing was the same. The city had carved scars no one could see. Children stared at the stranger with the dusty beard and torn bag. Old men whispered, isn't that Shambhu's boy? Someone said softly, he's changed. Raghav walked past them without a word and stopped before the banyan tree. The wind rustled its leaves as if greeting him, remembering every tear he had shed beneath it. He dropped his bag, touched the soil, and whispered, I kept my promise, Baba. I came back. His mother, Kamla, was sitting by the door when she saw him. For a moment she froze, then the steel cup in her hand fell to the ground. She ran, stumbling through the dust, and threw her arms around him. My son, my Raghav, she sobbed. Ma, he whispered, his voice breaking, I'm home. Tears rolled down their faces, years of pain washing away in silence. Inside the small hut, everything was smaller than he remembered: the cracked walls, the broken clay pot, the half-burnt stove. But Kamla's eyes shone like lamps. That night, after dinner of dry bread and salt, Raghav asked, Ma, Mira, how is she? Kamla hesitated. She's still here. Still strong. But life hasn't been kind. Raghav looked out at the moonlit fields, guilt heavy on his chest. Crescent moon, the reunion. Next morning, he walked to Mira's house. Her courtyard looked tidier than before: new hens, a repaired wall, yet the same wooden swing hung at the doorway. Mira was drawing water from the well, her dupatta fluttering with the wind. When she turned, the bucket slipped from her hand. For a few seconds, neither spoke. The silence between them was louder than any word. Raghav finally said, softly, Mira. She blinked, tears forming instantly. You came back. I promised, didn't I? She looked down. People said you forgot. That you never would. They were wrong, he said, his voice trembling. I lost everything there, but I found myself." She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "Then you found what really matters." They sat under the old tree where they once dreamed. Raghav told her everything: the city, the betrayal, the jail, the shame. She listened quietly, no judgment in her eyes. When he finished, she said one line that broke him completely. "You went through darkness, Raghav, but at least you came out alive. That's what matters." He wanted to hold her hand but didn't. Between them lay the weight of time and unspoken love. High voltage, the betrayal. Days turned into weeks. Raghav worked again in the fields, rebuilding what was lost. Mira helped him with accounts, milk sales, and harvesting. The village slowly began to see hope in him again. But happiness in life never walks alone, it comes with a shadow. One evening, a jeep roared into Keshapur. From it stepped Amaan, clean-shaven, wearing city clothes and dark glasses. The same man who once betrayed Raghav now smiled arrogantly. "Raghav, old friend. So this is where you vanished?" Raghav froze. The villagers gathered, curious. Amaan smirked. "You owe me, brother. I covered your trail. You think the police forgot you? I can make them remember." Mira stepped forward. "Who is he?" "No one," Raghav said coldly. "Oh, I'm someone," Amaan said, pulling a paper from his pocket. "A land deal contract. Your father's field, mortgaged long ago. I bought the debt. If you don't pay, I take the land." Gasps spread through the crowd. Kamla's eyes widened in horror. Mira clenched her fists. Amaan walked closer. "You have 1 week." He turned, smiling at Mira. "And maybe I'll take more than land if I like what I see." Raghav's anger flared. He grabbed Amaan's collar, but Mira stopped him. "No, Raghav. Don't let anger destroy you again." Amaan left, laughing. That night, Raghav sat outside his hut, staring at the stars. First the city stole everything, now this. Mira sat beside him. "Then we fight. Together." "With what?" "With faith," she said. "And the soil that never betrayed you." Sheaf of rice the fight. The next few days became a storm of work. Raghav plowed every inch of land he could, sowing vegetables that grew fast. Mira sold milk and eggs in nearby towns. Children helped carry baskets, old women prayed for rain. A montage of slow-motion moments: Raghav's blistered hands, Mira's tired eyes, the sweat dripping into soil, played under the imagined sound of emotional background music. One evening, Kamla fell sick from exhaustion. Raghav sat by her bed, holding her cold hand. "Ma, don't leave me now." "Not again." She smiled weakly. "I won't, my son. But remember, sometimes God tests how much love we can carry." Her words echoed in his heart. Finally, after 7 days of endless labor, the first harvest appeared, small but golden. Villagers gathered as Raghav loaded the crops onto a cart bound for the market. Before sunrise, he and Mira set off. The road was long and dusty, but hope lit their way. Money bagged the twist. At the market, traders mocked their small pile of goods. "This? You'll never pay your debt with that." Raghav swallowed his pride. Then, unexpectedly, a city merchant approached an old man with kind eyes. He examined the vegetables carefully. "These are pure. Grown with care. I'll take them all." Raghav stared, stunned. "All of them?" "Yes," the merchant smiled. "People forget the taste of real soil." "You've reminded me." He paid enough to clear the debt. As the coins clinked in Raghav's palm, tears welled in his eyes. Mira covered her face, crying silently with relief. They returned to the village, where Amaan waited with smug confidence. Raghav placed the money in his hand. "Here. Every rupee. Now leave." Amaan's face twisted. "You think you've won?" "No," Raghav said firmly. "I just stopped losing." Amaan left, humiliated. The villagers cheered. Cherry blossomed the confession. That night, under a sky full of stars, Mira and Raghav stood by the banyan tree. The soft music of crickets filled the air. Raghav looked at her, really looked, seeing not the girl he left, but the woman who had fought every storm beside him. Mira, he whispered, you waited, you believed when I couldn't. Because your heart never lied, she said. I'm not rich, I'm not perfect. But if you'll have me. She placed her hand on his lips. You already have me. They stood in silence, the kind of silence where hearts speak louder than words. Tears fell, but this time they were of peace. Sunrise, the transformation. Months later, Raghav's farm flourished again. He taught other villagers about natural farming. Mira opened a small clinic for children. Their home was simple but filled with laughter and the smell of fresh soil. One morning, a group of students came to interview them. Sir, what's your secret to success? A boy asked. Raghav smiled. Failure. And someone who never gave up on me. He looked at Mira, who smiled back. In the background, the same slow emotional music played as the camera in our mind's eye pulled back, showing fields bathed in golden light, cows grazing, children running, and the banyan tree standing tall like an old guardian. Sunflower, the message. Life doesn't choose its storms, but we can choose how we face them. Sometimes, love waits in silence. Sometimes, pain teaches what comfort cannot. And sometimes, the soil that buries your tears grows your dreams instead. Days turned into weeks, and Amaan started rebuilding life from dust. He spent mornings in the field, hands deep in the mud, feeling the heartbeat of the land he once dreamed of leaving. Every grain of soil reminded him of his father's voice, his mother's silent tears, and the laughter of Meher echoing through the mango trees. The villagers slowly noticed a change in him. The boy who once dreamed of cities now worked with quiet strength. The same hands that held dreams of flight now held sick calves, broken fences, and the rough ropes of the bull he once feared. One afternoon, while feeding the animals, Amaan found a small injured bird lying under the tree. Its wing was broken. He picked it up carefully and whispered, "Don't worry, even broken wings can learn to fly again." That line became a reflection of his own heart. The shadow returns. One evening, as the orange sun melted into the fields, a shadow appeared at the edge of the road, Meher. Her scarf was dusty, her eyes hollow, her body thin. Life in the city had crushed her spirit. The man she trusted had left her betrayed, humiliated, and alone. When Amaan saw her, his heart stopped between love and pain, silence and scream. She spoke softly, "Amaan, I made a mistake." He didn't reply at first. The wind spoke instead, rustling leaves, dry soil, and unshed tears. Then, in a voice cracked with pain, he said, "Mistakes can be forgiven, but hearts, once broken, never heal the same." She lowered her gaze, tears dropping on the dusty path. The silence between them was louder than words. His mother, seeing Meher's state, brought her inside, offered water, and whispered a prayer under her breath. The mother's heart, even when wounded, knew only compassion. Between fire and forgiveness, nights became heavy with memories. Amaan would sit outside, under the stars, sometimes looking at Meher's shadow near the window. She tried to help on the farm, spoke little, and prayed often. The village had begun to whisper, some with pity, others with judgment. But Amaan's mother silenced them all by saying, "We all make mistakes. The soil forgives, why can't we?" Those words hit Amaan deeply. One night, after feeding the animals, he walked up to Meher and said, "You know what's strange? Even after all this pain, I can't hate you. Maybe love isn't about holding someone close, maybe it's about forgiving them, even when your heart bleeds." She broke down, her hands trembling. "I didn't deserve you, Amaan." He smiled faintly, eyes wet. "Maybe not then. But now, maybe we both deserve peace." The storm night. That year, a fierce storm hit the village. Winds howled, lightning tore through the sky, and rain flooded the fields. The animals were panicking, the old barn was collapsing. Amaan ran out in the storm, shouting for help. Meher followed him, clutching a lantern. The goats, cows, and hens screamed as thunder rolled like war drums. Suddenly, a beam from the roof cracked and fell near Meher. Amaan leapt forward, pushing her aside. The beam struck his shoulder, blood ran down, mixing with rain. "Amaan," she screamed, rushing to him. But he smiled through the pain. "I told you once, even broken wings can still fly." Together they fought through the night, saving animals, rebuilding walls, praying between thunderclaps. When morning finally came, the sky cleared into gold. The field was soaked, but alive. The morning after. The storm washed away not just the mud, but years of pain. Meher bandaged Amaan's wounds, her hands trembling. As she did, she whispered, "I saw the truth last night. You didn't just save me, you saved my soul." He looked at her, eyes tired but peaceful. Maybe we both were meant to fall, just to rise again. The mother entered, her eyes wet, and placed her hands on their heads. "May Allah keep your hearts pure. Pain makes us strong, but love makes us human." Outside, the sun rose gently over the wet fields, a promise of new beginnings. Transformation. Months passed. The village saw them rebuild together, a small poultry farm, a vegetable patch, and even a small school under a neem tree where Amaan taught children about courage and faith. Meher, once broken, now smiled again, but this time with humility. She covered her head, treated animals with kindness, and became a symbol of change. Villagers who once judged her now admired her strength. Amaan would often sit quietly at sunset, watching the horizon. When asked what he was thinking, he would say, "That life is like rain, it breaks you, but it also helps you grow." Climax, the letter. One day, Amaan found an old letter under his pillow written in Meher's handwriting. It said, "Amaan, if I ever die before you, don't cry. Just plant a tree near the pond and name it Patience. Because everything we lost taught us one truth: love doesn't end when people leave, it ends when forgiveness dies. Thank you for forgiving me." He held that letter to his chest and looked at the sky. Tears rolled down, but this time, they weren't of sorrow, they were of peace. The camera would zoom in on his eyes, shining with tears and sunlight, as a soft background tune played. A mix of flute and rain sound, symbolizing love's final calm. Years slipped by quietly, like dew sliding down a leaf. Amaan's small farm had become the heart of the village. Children came to learn under the neem tree, birds built nests around the poultry yard, and the fragrance of fresh soil mixed with laughter and prayer. The once broken boy was now the calm of many hearts. And beside him, Meher walked with grace, her scarf fluttering softly, her eyes bright with purpose. Their love was no longer about words or promises. It was in the way she placed food on his plate, the way he shielded her from the afternoon sun, the way silence between them spoke louder than poetry. The Festival of Harvest. Every autumn, the village celebrated the Basanti Barish, a festival of rain and harvest. This year, Amaan and Meher hosted it in their courtyard. Lanterns hung from trees, children danced, and old men told stories of youth. Meher prepared traditional dishes, kheer, roti, and roasted chicken from their own farm. Amaan's mother, her hair now silver, smiled with pride. "My son," she whispered, "you've turned our pain into light." As night deepened, Meher stood near the pond, the same pond where Amaan had once promised to plant a tree named Patience. Now, that tree had grown tall and strong. She touched its bark and closed her eyes. "We survived," she murmured. "Through betrayal, hunger, judgment, we still survived." Amaan joined her quietly and said, "And not just survived, we learned how to live." The camera would pan upward, the moon reflected in the pond, the lanterns flickering, soft folk music rising in the background. The return of the past. But life never ends without one last test. One evening, a letter arrived from the city. It was from Rizwan, the man who had betrayed Meher years ago. He was dying, asking for forgiveness. Amaan read the letter silently, then handed it to Meher. Her hands shook, but her eyes remained calm. "What should I do?" she asked. "Do what your heart feels," Amaan said gently. "Forgive him, not for him, but for yourself." That night, she lit a candle near the tree of patience and prayed. "Ya Allah, grant peace to those who wrong me, as you granted me peace when I wronged myself." Her tears fell softly, and for the first time, they felt light, no bitterness, only release. The journey beyond pain. Seasons changed again. Amaan's mother passed away peacefully one morning, her face serene. She left behind her last words written in a small diary. "When hearts forgive, Allah fills them with His light. Let love remain pure, it will guide you home." The loss shook them deeply, but Meher stood firm beside Amaan. Their grief didn't break them, it united them even more. They decided to build a small health center in her memory, to serve villagers who couldn't afford medicine. The opening day was simple, no speeches, just prayers and a plaque reading. "For those who suffer silently, may they find healing here." The camera would zoom on the plaque, then slowly move toward Amaan's face, tears glistening, yet a smile of peace forming. Transformation complete. Meher began teaching girls embroidery and literacy. She wore her traditional clothes with pride, her laughter echoing across the courtyard where hens clucked and goats played. Amaan expanded the poultry business and trained young men in farming techniques. Their home had become a living lesson of forgiveness, patience, and dignity. Every wall, every tree, every animal carried a story of struggle turned into beauty. One afternoon, Meher found Amaan sitting under the tree, writing something. "What are you writing?" she asked. "Our story," he smiled. "So the next generation remembers that real success isn't money or fame, it's peace of heart." The climax, when the rain returns. The sky turned gray again one evening, the first rain after a long drought. Children ran outside laughing, the fields drank eagerly, and the smell of wet soil filled the air. Amaan and Meher stepped out, standing hand in hand under the rain. She looked up and said, "Do you remember? You once said even broken wings can fly." He smiled, water dripping from his hair. "Yes, and you proved it." The music swelled, a slow flute over soft thunder. Camera zooms in on their eyes, filled with tears and reflection. Then Amaan whispered, "This soil, it never forgets love." They both looked at the horizon, green fields glowing under a silver sky. The world, once cruel, now felt gentle. The pain, once unbearable, had turned into wisdom. Final scene, the message. Voiceover, deep and emotional. Life is not about avoiding storms, it's about learning to dance in the rain. When betrayal turns to forgiveness and loss turns to prayer, that's when a soul truly lives. The camera slowly pans out, showing the whole village, the pond, the tree of patience, and Amaan and Meher walking into the misty dawn. A soft line fades on screen. Some stories don't end with goodbye, they end with peace.